Welcome to Hotline FN, first ever episode. My name's Tim. I'm going to be your recurring weekly, hopefully weekly. I'll be your recurring host either way and showrunner. We got a couple of great guests coming up soon. Our first guest, you guys know him. He's an accomplished player. You know him from his VOD reviews. You know him from casting the World Cup qualifiers, multiple weekends. You know him from ESL Katowice. Balla, how are you doing?
Hey guys, I'm doing great, Tim. Thank you for having me, dude. I'm excited. This is gonna be fun. It's gonna be really fun.
Yeah, I'm stoked. Before we move on to the next host, though, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been up to recently? What have you been up to maybe this week?
Yeah, man. Preparing for season 9. Last night I stayed up all night. I took a little bit of a nap.
I saw.
And then I did a bunch of car stuff. But yeah, I'm preparing for season 9. VOD reviews. I'm getting a few content pieces ready. Pretty fun future I think ahead in terms of content. I'm road mapping it, so I don't know. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be educational. It's gonna be analytical. It's gonna be nitty gritty, competitive stuff. And then yeah, just preparing to go to LA to cast more Fortnite World Cup, baby. Let's go!
That's the dream. That's fantastic. It's great. I haven't seen you kind of grow out of this Reddit community, which our next guest host is also huge in. You know him for his tips, his steady stream of content. Delivered specifically to that platform, the competitive Fortnite subreddit as well as the Fortnite VR subreddit. How are you doing today, Speedy?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
The reveal!
I can't tell if that was a Sly Secret Labs like sponsorship deal there or what.
I wish I was sponsored by Secret Labs.
Sponsors.
Dr. Lupo.
Yeah.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to Hotline, where we give you the hottest dating tips and tricks out there on Reddit. Can't wait to share them with you guys.
Hell yeah. You been working on anything spicy recently, Speedy?
Just getting a little bit acclimated to season 9 right now. There's so much in the season that, I mean, one video, I was trying to get a video out today, and there's just so much to cover that it's just not happening, to be honest.
I hear that. All right, guys. Well, before we hop into questions, and we've got them piling up again, submit your questions, right? I wanted to start a little bit with some pre-season 9 talk, something we're a little more familiar with before we jump right into, obviously, you know, the big questions on everybody's mind. Specifically, I want to talk about shadow bombs. Recently introduced. We didn't get a solos tournament in season 8 with the shadow bomb. Personally, I feel like it's a contender for your slot for gliders, which you already don't prioritize that slot as much in duos. I don't know. How have you guys thought about the shadow bombs and how they did or did not affect last weekend's world qualifiers?
Before we get into that, I think my cam is off.
Oh no. Oh man, my bad. Here you go. Speedy's here!
There you go.
Hey, what's up, guys?
That tropical storm got him!
Go ahead. How are you doing, Speedy? What have you been doing this week?
Wait. Speedy.
I think
turn
heard
around
me.
in your chair again.
Oh yeah.
Here you go.
I had like a whole reveal too. Like, all right. Let's do it. Hey, what's going on, guys?
Woo! There it is!
Yes, there we
Nailed
go.
it! First try. All right, Speedy's live.
The shadow bombs, you know, they're really good. I like them a lot. I think they're fun. I think they're hard to see. Sometimes I'm not sure if that's intentional or what it is, but
Hard to see,
they can be really frustrating because of that sometimes.
Hard to see, like, once someone's used it? Like, hard to see the player?
When they're moving, right? It's really easy to lose track of them, at least for me.
Yeah.
And it looked like that for Fortnite World Cup as well.
Yep.
But that's also just used to not looking at it and not like using the sound cues correctly. So I think people are getting used to that. I am, but I think they're fun. I think they're a good addition. I think they're really good for rotation. But there's a risk involved with it, right? You can get beamed. You can 100% get beamed. You can get stuck and stuff. And that's in contrast to like the baller, right, where you can't take any damage at all when you're in it. So
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I like them though.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think intentionally by design, you are completely invisible after you first use it. But then in those last couple of seconds, you start to flicker in and out. Yeah. What do you think, Speedy? What are your thoughts? You got anything to say about that?
I mean, I pretty much everything Bala said. I jumped into a couple of creatives just with like, so there's this thing in Playground, right, where you can like load up something and you can just get like a lobby full of randoms to join your party. So I was testing out some maps there. I threw in some shadow bombs, and every time I got someone pretty low, they'd pop one. I tried my best to track them, but they'd pretty much disappear. So it's kind of, I'm not sure if the design was meant to, completely invisible, like a mechanism to escape, and then, all right, this guy's running, and there's some sort of stream, sort of like when Shadowstones were in the game, and you can see
Yeah.
their kind of tail, but shadow bombs don't really have that.
No.
So it's really hard to kind of gauge where opponents are when they implement them, and not to mention like the meta right now is redeploying shadow bombs are just like take dumb high ground, like a mile up, so far up like a grapple from a baller can't even reach you.
Yeah.
So all these things kind of added to the games just really elevated the high ground.
Yeah. No, I think that's a smart thought on that situation. Something interesting to me is the conversation kind of obviously season 9 changes a lot, has changed a lot, is going to change a lot, and it's hard to foresee that. But specifically the topic of taking shadow bombs over taking glider redeploy, right? It's kind of like the different uses. I feel like, for example, glider redeploy pro, much more useful for mid-game travel, right? Like the shadow bombs can do it, sure, but you're not going to use your shadow bombs in the mid-game just to get into zone and still have them as a tool for later on, right? Whereas the glider, that's a pretty like typical use case. Also, something I really have enjoyed about shadow bombs is late game, getting to use them as a sweet mix-up tool, right? Shadow bomb, pop out a storm together. That's a great way to take height and surprise people. But also, you don't get to just tarp out on a single floor quite as easily, right? What do you think, Bala?
Yeah.
Or Speedy.
Yeah,
I mean, rock paper scissors.
Okay.
Let's see.
In terms of like which one is better, I think that's just number one. It's a matter of what you find. Obviously, that's the case in all Fortnite BR always.
Yep.
But glider has more longevity because it's infinite uses. It feels like infinite uses, right? It's 10 uses, but like I've never run out of glider redeploy. I'll be honest here, and I've used it a lot in the last couple weeks. Shadow bombs I've run out of very often because you kind of spam them and you chain them in those final zones. So I think glider redeploy is still the way because, like Speedy said, people are using it to like take super high, like they do with glider redeploy. But with glider redeploy, it's better because you can pull it at the last second and then you're not useless, right? So you can actually use it all the way until final zone.
Yeah.
With shadow bombs, you can't use it in final zone anymore because you'll just not be able to shoot, so it doesn't work.
Yeah. That's a good point. Just like the longevity of usefulness, like it's just more useful over a longer period of time, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
You got anything to add to that, Speedy?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to disagree with Bala on some points, but like when you're
That's what the show is
so
about.
the spice has begun.
So if you're all right, 5th to 6th circle, right? You're on the ground. I'd rather have a shadow bomb than redeploy because with redeploy, you at least have to get 2 to 3 stories up into the air before it's even useful. Whereas if you have a shadow bomb, moving 5th to 6th circle, you can get ahead of the pack. Shadow bomb pops off, you box yourself in, open up a window, and you beam everyone, get some picks. With redeploy, you can do the same, but you run the risk of ramping up, which ramping up really exposes you. It's hard to cover your angles unless you burn a lot of mats tunneling up. Just a couple of reasons why I like shadow bombs over redeploy. And with shadow bombs, you can actively take height, whereas with easily. Whereas with redeploy, it's hard to all you have with redeploy is your build fight mechanics to take height. So you gotta do a couple 90s, you gotta avoid getting floored or coned, and you gotta try to take high ground. Whereas with a shadow bomb, you could just do a couple jumps. It's easier than ever really to take height.
I mean, I agree with all that, but I think that doesn't make it more valuable. I think glider redeploy is more valuable simply because of the way the format works in competitive, right? People are always going to be taking high ground regardless. Like if you have to rely on shadow bombs to take high ground, I think that's an issue because all that time using the shadow, how long does it last? 5 seconds?
6 seconds.
6 seconds, yeah.
6 seconds.
Yeah.
That's legit time wasted that you're not spending looking for frags, and you need to be looking for frags and executing on that. I think glider redeploy is much better for actually playing the format. Shadow bomb, sure, when you play for placement, yeah, they're really good, but you should be going for height regardless, and you shouldn't be necessarily relying on shadow bombs to go for height. And then if you're using shadow bombs after you take height, they're to me they're useless. I mean, sure, you could avoid fall damage, but you should be looking for kills, and you shouldn't be taking fall damage. Sure, and with glider redeploy, you can literally completely disregard that, and you have a different attitude when you're fighting for height now, right? Because you literally cannot take fall damage. You just go up, 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 up. And whereas the other players, they might have shadow bombs, and they can't do that. If they do that, they will end up having to waste their shadow bomb and waste time. I don't know. I think glider redeploy is way more valuable still.
I think that's an interesting point. The idea that just like you're going to be taking height anyway, right? And once you have height, the shadow bombs become kind of a dead inventory slot. But I also like the thought that like 5th, 6th circle, like trying to just rotate with redeploy, right? If the timing's not right,
that's
take
trash.
Height,
no,
that's awful. That's a
trash.
terrible situation to be in. Nobody wants to just be slowly gliding off the top of their tower, right? Like, so I mean, ultimately, it's just not as clear cut as everybody wants it to be, right? Like, it really depends on the situation, the rest of your loadout, what you're holding.
Sure.
Do you see a situation where you want both? You have the opportunity to have both. Do you take both over, say, another heal?
No.
Yeah.
Heck no.
That's too
I
many
mean, who
inventory
knows?
slots.
Like, honestly though, season 9, man, I don't know, man. There might be like some weird. There might be some weird shit with the loadouts.
There's some weird
like
interaction.
One drum gun, or just like no shotgun or something like that. I don't know. There could be some weird stuff.
Drum gun only
Like,
loadout.
there are people not even picking up a shotgun anymore. They're just like running drum gun.
Yeah.
At this point.
Like,
We'll see if that holds out in finals, though. I don't know about that. I know some people
I
want to
don't
talk
think
about
so.
it, though. I know some people want to talk about it. Let's get our first question in here. We
Okay.
already have hit our first technical difficulty. I don't know, Speedy and Ball, if you saw the message I sent to you
I'll look at it right now.
in our group chat. Give you a second there. But
Okay, I see. Yeah.
our first question is actually coming from
Oh, but our cams are gonna go off, Tim.
second instance, if you can, or like in web app or something.
Okay. Yeah, I got you. Yep. Got it.
Okay. Our first question comes from Swagman Arito. Let me get him in here. I can hold up for you for second Speedy if you need.
Yeah, I'm not quite. So what am I doing here?
Uh-oh. Discord crash, boys. Hold up.
No.
It's okay. We're back.
You have to open Discord in another instance,
Okay.
and then that way you can listen to the swags, because he's gonna get pulled into the live channel. So you need to listen.
Okay.
There it is. All right. We're sweet. We're going. We're rocking.
All right, I muted my mic, guys.
Yep.
Hello.
Swagman
Hello,
Arito.
Good evening.
Hey, how's it going? All right.
I'm doing fine. Kind of fine.
Hell yeah. What did you want to talk about today?
Okay. My first point is that Epic clearly
one second,
lacks
one
any
second.
strategy.
1 second. Sorry.
Should I just start?
Who are we getting our echo? Who are we getting the echo from, folks?
It's not from me.
I don't have. I don't know. It could be me. I have my mic muted on Discord though.
Can you talk again, Swag?
Sure.
A little more?
Okay. I will just start with my question. All right.
Yes. Go for it.
Okay. Epic does not clearly have no real strategy on how to improve Fortnite. I see a lot of different approaches of them thrown around at each patch notes, and every single patch we have a very different approach. It kind of looks messy. I feel like the game tends to go in several directions at the same time. They try to get in more mobility, but at the same time they want to reduce the speed of the game. And it feels awkward for me as a competitive player. I don't know where I'm stuck at the moment.
Okay. So a couple things to talk about here. Repeat because of that bad echo, which was entirely my fault. Sort of this concern that Epic doesn't have a clear vision of the direction they want the game to move in, holistically speaking, as well as this sort of feeling of being kind of stuck in a limbo as a competitive player, right? Feeling not like you have all the opportunities you need to really practice and improve on things. Balla, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah. So I mean, I didn't hear necessarily the element of the
Okay.
competitive. Sorry. Yeah. You can stay if you want. If you can.
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
want to
no,
debate with
please.
us, yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to chill.
Or if you want to clarify.
Oh, I don't think you can hear me, Tim. That's why.
The problem is I can't really hear neither Balla or SpeedyGonzalez.
Yeah.
Because my stream is basically delayed, and I would have hear myself. That's a bit awkward.
You
Yeah,
can
so-
you guys can unmute yourselves in the secondary channel now.
Oh, cool. All right, you should be able to hear me now.
Okay, good.
Cool. Is there echo, Tim? Are we good?
Nope, you're all set.
Cool.
Perfectly.
So yeah. First off, thanks for the question, man. I didn't hear the element of competitive, like feeling left in the dust, like Tim iterated, but I'll touch on that too afterwards. I think I kind of agree with you in terms of like all the different, very different approaches, but at the same time, like they try a lot of different things and they also remove a lot of different things at the same time. I think they have it seems like a very data driven approach to like new items, even like, oh, they think that this new item will be received in this way. And a lot of times it's focused on a certain population and it's supposed to be fun and new and it's trying to get people who aren't necessarily always playing the game, but trying to get them to come through, play, buy a few items and stuff like that. Like that's why it feels like that. They have a bunch of different things threads that they're all trying to try, but there's definitely I agree with you. I don't think there's a theme to like their mobility and stuff like that. Like whether they want more mobility or less mobility, whether they want high burst damage, low burst damage. I don't think there's a theme there at all, and I think that also is very clear in how they handle their competitive topics, right? Like FOV, for example, they were gonna support stretch. Now they're not gonna support stretch. Like all that sort of stuff shows me the same thing. So I agree with you, Swag.
Is it an internal problem? Like, are there different groups of people inside Epic that have very different interests in the game? And
Well,
with this, there come the split decisions?
I'll kind of take the opposite, not opposite position here, but definitely a different one. I think that there is, yes, the idea of there being multiple threads here, they're trying multiple things, like that's just like blatantly evident, right? And like what's going on, and like some changes seem to push things this way, other changes seem to push things this way, and they're not always super cohesive. I do think that a lot of the recent changes, obviously I haven't a lot of experience with Season 9 yet, but a lot of the recent changes leading up to today have kind of declared a sort of path here. If we look at like items like the baller, right? The baller is extra mobility. It means more people in game, as like almost as a general rule, right? Speaking in arena and qualifiers, right? We've had more mobility items and more mobility like map objects, right? We've got like the geysers are a huge thing, prior to this season. We've had the shadow bombs, but we've also had a large amount of items that a large amount of changes that allow you to kill people quickly. Obviously, this is before the shotgun change, right? But like you got the drum gun added in, you got the boom bow added in. To me, that starts to paint a picture of we're willing to have more people in a part of the end game, right? Corner circle, maybe up to 5th, 6th zone, but that we want people to die once they're next to each other. And if that's something that like you guys are seeing as well, that's something that excites me, right? Like I'm all for that. Let's get in games, and let's get in games that like don't have 20 people in the closing circle, but have 40 in corner, right? Like that's kind of the direction I've seen prior to today as sort of like this veiled, almost like secondary effective changes.
Speedy, I'll let you if you have any thoughts on that, but I have some thoughts on what Tim just said.
I mean, the only thing that I think is a common thread over a couple seasons is more introduction of mobility methods. I mean, yeah, so dating back to obviously they were not ideal in the way they were introduced, but they allowed the map to kind of shrink, right? Because the player model right now versus the map size, then they had, well, before planes, they had shadow stones that allowed you to rotate all around the map. They included vents all around the map, which was a huge boost to mobility, quads, drift boards, and now slipstream. So, there has been a common trend of trying to make the map smaller,
Yeah, I can see that.
but that's the only comment I had on that.
Yeah, I
But
was sorry. Go ahead, Swag.
okay, but this is not pretty much contradicting the point that they try to make the game to some degree slower by removing Siphon, for example?
They tried to make pubs slower by removing Siphon. Like I think that's like a worthwhile difference to call out.
I think they kind of do go slower though with all the mobility at the same time. Like sure, the map is smaller, but I feel like the games also kind of slow down as well. Both I don't know. Siphon was a very clear like addressing the unhealthy aggression like that people were not feeling, and I feel like the mobility kind of does contradict that, but at the same time it doesn't, because if you go into a pub right now and you try to kill somebody who's playing in the slipstream, you're never going to kill them because they're going to run around the entire freaking map and they're having a blast doing it. They're like, yeah, I'm flying through the air, this is so much fun. You know what I'm saying? So like at the same time it kind of does slow it down even though it's making it smaller. I don't know, that's just my thought there. But what you were saying, Tim, about like making the the mobility additions and like having people forced to be fighting and stuff like that and not ending up in circles with 20 people alive in the final zone, I feel like the mobility is at least like the vehicles so far, and maybe their data is now showing them that the vehicles actually contradict that, and they always add more people in the final zones. We saw it with planes and we saw it with ballers. Like there's always the whole reason we have any sort of heal offs right now is because of ballers. If there's no ballers, there would not be any heal offs. And we've seen that in customs for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. So that is I feel like there's never ever, and yeah, I don't feel like there's ever much huge thought and looking into the data of what the final zone will look like in a competitive game. I really don't think that there is anything like that besides for like server performance, which has been fantastic recently. But yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, because I definitely agree with you that vehicles and more mobility generally increases the end game. My thought is simply that might be intentional to some degree for Arena and World Cup. I could hope. Wouldn't that be a dream come true, right? At least. All right, Swagman Arito, thank you so much for your topic. Thank you for spending time with us tonight.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
You too.
Bye.
Awesome. All right, first question down, guys, on Hotline
Nice.
FN ever. How are we
Let's
feeling about that?
go.
Yeah, let's keep rolling through these.
Milestones.
I'm gonna kind of skip around here a bit because what Hog is saying here kind of interests me, and I have a feeling we'll be talking about this a lot tonight in different forms. So, Hog, welcome to Hotline FN.
Yo, what's up?
Hey, what do you want to talk about?
How you guys doing?
Oh, sorry, 1 second. Don't talk yet.
All
Let me fix that again. I keep goofing on it. And taken care of. All right, what's up, Hog?
All right. So I have an idea, or kind of like a theory that with the removal of the pump shotgun, the skill gap has like increased, since a bot can't really like 200 pump you anymore. So let's say you hit a guy for like lots of health or shield, you have that advantage over him. So if you push him, you're most likely going to win that fight, being that the fight just can't like turn around and he can just like one pump you. It also leaves a bit more room for mistakes, meaning that if you're like rotating endgame, if you can build somewhere, you can't just get one pumped. So I feel like the better player will come on top more often now.
Okay. I like this. This is actually a thought that I had initially as the changes happened, right? If we're talking specifically just loadouts in light of shotgun changes only, and none of the other changes, of the season. Nothing has changed. If you don't get the one pump, very little has actually changed in time to kill, I believe, looking at the numbers, right? In an actual fight in somebody's box, you pump them for maybe 100, you swap to your swap, right? Like, that's just the way it goes. That goes that way with the old pumps, it goes that way with the new pumps, it goes that way with attack. I mean, attack, well, I mean, fire rates are different, right? I mean, maybe you're not swapping, but still, if you're not swapping, then either you're not giving up time to kill, or, you know, time to kill is equal, right? And I think
You
that
think so?
I think that goes into like what you're saying here, and which I agree with as far as like the initial approach, right? If total time to kill hasn't actually increased that much in the average like same tile or two fight, and there's no chance to one pump, right? Like almost everything still has a time to respond to it. I agree completely with your assessment. I think that technically you could call this an increase in skill gap, just a different type of skill, right? It's not who can click on the other person's head first anymore.
That's key right there. It's a different, like, I don't know whether it's bigger or smaller or whatever, but it's different type of skill now. I feel like there was people who are just like god tier aimers, like constantly god tier aimers, constantly getting those big one pumps. You're constantly posting those Twitter clips in endgame of people getting 200 pump, 200 pump, 200 pump, 200 pump. Like I was never doing that, except in like Turtle Wars, but in endgame I was never doing that. I feel like it's shifted, it's nerfed those people, and it's boosted people like a Bugga, like a Bugga, like a Kuna, who are really, really quick with what they're doing and how to block things and stuff like that. Because there's, number one, they can't get pumped as hard when they go for their shot, right? They're gonna get shot for whatever a P is gonna hit them, and they're gonna take like 10 damage or whatever it is. No, I'm just kidding. But they take less damage when they go for their stuff, and they're gonna hit for harder, and they're gonna be like, what I've played so far, I feel like I'm toying with people in their boxes now, instead of like them like toying with them a little bit and then getting pumped hard, having to heal, and then like getting shat on. Like, I legit keep them in their box and just destroy them because they have no way to like do any serious damage to me. But that doesn't necessarily mean the skill gap has increased, right? It's just a different type of skill. It feels better to me, but it probably doesn't feel better for everybody. And I also don't agree at all with the fact that a pump shotgun is like getting a one pump is not skillful. And
Oh, Discord died again, guys. Hold up.
that's the case at all. Bots should never be one pumping good players.
I guess, yeah, because if you drop in a box with someone, you kind of make the mistake there, and you deserve to get one pumped. But also, how I kind of see it too is that, so let's say you're not in a good position and you just get lasered, you don't really have any room to come back. I mean, that mistake you made has already impacted your game. So, because I've seen some like instances where some guy is literally in like the worst situation possible, but then gets a lucky pump that can save his entire game.
Yep. Yeah, completely. The opportunity for one pump.
I also think that it could be better for regular games too, like a non-comp, since sometimes you win the fight, except that guy hits you for like 160, like right before you kill him, leaving you with no heals, like nothing pretty much. But now I guess fights you don't really lose as much anymore.
Yeah. Yep. I think that the ability to one pump and completely turn a fight around, no matter how many. Fortnite in a lot of ways is a game of like succeeding advantages, right? Like, and then the one pump, you know, like I got hide on them and I got a little bit of damage on them and I used their resources and I made them use a bunch of their mats and I'm consuming time before they have to rotate and I have the positional advantage. All these sort of things like layer up and are very evident throughout the course of a game in top performers. And a one pump kind of fights that whole like dichotomy, that whole sort of like advantage economy, if you will, of the rest of Fortnite, right? It's just like, never mind, I shot you in the head. GG.
Yeah. So I guess the advantage you have on an opponent is a lot like more worth now, I guess. Because before it wasn't really, I think, that strong, but now it's insanely strong. Because if you're low health in a fight, you can't really do much anymore since you have no burst.
You have anything
unless the enemy just chokes everything.
Got anything to say here, Spade?
I just want to chime in with like my yeah, my insight of, I live in Florida, which is almost as far away from Virginia as you can get. They're constantly getting taken, and I've already grown to rely on taking. They go for a netted shot. I just hold out my pump, or there's a cone. Try to change the situation or turn the situation around using my pump because I can't really rely on turbo building as a defense. That's kind of something I think Epic didn't really take into account as well. The ability to defend yourself, turn the situation around, like that. In that situation, for example, I wasn't shot at first. I wasn't weak. This ping element that I was able to mitigate and hedge with a one pump, double cone, floor edit above me. They open it up. Yeah, or I could go for like a quick maybe 140 pump and then go for the ramp.
Sorry.
Like a move that I tended to rely on. But now, I mean, what am I going to do? Or like combat, shoot him for like, I don't know.
130.
No. So like, the combat's like 137 at best. So that's
Sure. So you like the idea of being able to turn around a fight instantly?
I think there should have been at least like gold pump in care packages or supply drops that you would have to fight for.
That's true. Yeah, kind of like the RPGs.
That would be
exactly.
amazing.
Yeah. Like them being in the game, but being an objective that you have to.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to be said though about like, I mean that's already a risky strategy, right? Like letting them take your wall and then trying to slip that shotgun in there when you're already like at a ping disadvantage. That's like already like in my mind like a subpar 50-50 style strategy when you should be trying to get out of the box, trying to trap them in a box, trying to get over them, that kind of thing, right? And so from that point of view, it almost makes me wonder if this is just gonna force better play out of people.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm trying to get at.
Cool. I mean, I think we've talked a lot about it, right? I appreciate the question, man. It was a good conversation.
Thanks for hanging out with us, Hog.
All right. Yeah, thanks, guys. Have a good night.
You too.
Nice.
All right. Our next question comes from. Let's bring Legend Fareed in here. What's up, Fareed? How's it going?
Hello.
Hey. I actually duoed last weekend with Legend Fareed. He was a breeze to play with. That was a lot of fun. So, what did you want to talk about? Oh, we just lost...
Firstly, I just wanted to...
Oh, there he comes back. Okay, we're good. Sorry, continue.
Dipped out. Yeah, I just want to first thank you guys for putting this podcast on. Finally got something to listen to while I go back to something, you know? Yeah. You want to wait for him to come back, or?
No, he's back.
He's not letting me join.
Is he back? Oh, okay. My bad. Yeah, so basically my question is like, with the introduction of the new map movement that they add like every season, like how do you guys think, like, it's obviously too early to say, but do you guys have any idea, like, any ideas on how the slipstreams will like play in the comp?
Yeah, and specifically in your prompt, you kind of mentioned. Well, let me repeat for Speedy here. The question essentially is, with the addition of all these new forms of mobility, and specifically the slipstream, how do you perceive or assume or guess that that's going to affect competitive Fortnite, especially coming into this weekend? And I'm really interested in the pacing aspect of that, right? Like, obviously, there's the whole conversation about like how weird and awkward it can be to get stuck in these sort of mobility and map objects during like tight in-game moments. But as far as like general pacing of the game holistically, what kind of effect do you think that's going to have?
Speedy, you want to take that?
Well, the slipstream definitely made the map a lot smaller. So for example, now you can go from, let's say, there's a bad example because Paradise has quads and stuff, but didn't get any quads or any rifts in Paradise, you can make your way over to a vent, then catch the vent into the slipstream to like, north, or then do like a little hop upward and get a little bit more of a boost when you get out of the slipstream. So it really opens up the possibilities for a lot of rotates, especially if you end up being unlucky and having zone like at the other side of the map. Did this mobility. They did a loop, almost like a train, but they did it like in a modern style.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, right now, I
Yeah.
think one of my biggest fears is like, correct me if I'm wrong, there's no interact for getting into a slipstream, right?
I was talking about that with a friend earlier. So the argument was ziplines didn't have interact. But the problem with ziplines was that ziplines would kill you. Like
Yeah.
you would get in the zipline, it would launch you, and so you would die from fall damage.
Yeah. Definitely.
Then it did interact, and they took away fall damage, so you just wouldn't die from fall damage. So they fixed that. The only issue with them currently is that you can't build around them. So maybe that's an issue.
Yeah, because like my biggest fear for like this upcoming like weekend qualifier is like the zone just randomly going over a slipstream and I just get stuck and get whisked like out into the storm. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, it's really hard to control when you get caught in a slipstream. That's the only kind of just like you noticed that I kind of see. Maybe they'll work on that, but I mean, right now I feel like a slipstream won't outright kill you.
Yeah, no.
Like a zipline used to.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think it sucks that there's no interact key, but like at the same time, there's no situation that you're gonna get trapped and like actually ruin your game, right? It's like the volcanic vent, right? The volcanic vent was really good in that you literally couldn't. You would always break your builds and whatever to get out of it. So there's no situation where you would get screwed because of it. And you just have to be careful when running around it and like what level you are. It kind of like actually invalidates a level. You have to be very aware of the slipstream, which is kind of hard because it's kind of difficult to see like how far away this is from you. Because I don't know, maybe it's my settings or something like that. Maybe I need to adjust something. I need to customize something to get a competitive advantage. But I think the split slipstreams are going to be great. And in terms of like competitive, I think they're going to be really cool to see what kind of like loop paths people come up with. I'm already looking forward to like what Psalm and like Saf will do with the slipstream because you can access way more than you could ever and way faster than you could ever. And like pairing that with a baller is insane. The amount of loot possibilities that you can get, right? You can do like, that Southwest route where you loot a bunch of stuff in the Southwest and then hit a slipstream and like loot, Poverty really fast or something like that, or loot like some buildings in Tilted and leave and go loot some stuff in Loot Lake and then leave, right? There are so many awesome possibilities from the slipstream, which make it less RNG to me, right? And obviously there's the zone, there's a zone RNG like debate that's like I think is ended at this point where nobody's like sad if they don't get zone anymore.
It's made really every drop spot viable.
Yeah.
I want to continue with this topic.
Definitely buff, like you're saying, definitely buff the scavenge lifestyle of looting early game and stuff.
Yep, exactly.
Yep. I want to continue talking about this topic just a little bit, but I want to thank you, Legend Fareed, for bringing this topic to us and talking with us a little bit tonight.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
So we talked about that a bunch, but I kind of want to touch a little more on pacing, right? We talked about how scavenger loot paths, as you mentioned, Balla, will be like this is a direct buff to like that style of play, right? Like trying to land on a baller and then just roam around through the map, getting every little piece of loot you can. Like, more scavengers? Does that mean less loot for scavengers? Does the amount of space this opens up just mean more scavenger routes are viable even without them contesting each other? But then, I mean, I kind of want to talk about that. Like, how do you think this very specifically affects any given person's scavenger route is now better, right? But in the context of everybody now having the opportunity to pursue more scavenger routes and thus interacting with each other a lot earlier in the game, how do you think that's going to affect Fortnite?
I think it's It's presenting a problem already because I don't think there's enough loot for how much scavenger-esque type people this will put out, right? I don't think there's enough loot. There's not enough like little stuff that you can grab. Like there's not enough little shacks. There's not enough little houses. I think that presents a problem. I want to see more like little floor loot like scattered around the entire map, like little one chest spots, stuff like that. There's a lot of those, but there's not. With the slipstream, I don't think there's enough, especially center map. I think there's a huge gap in what is actually available there in terms of loot, besides like big paths. But in terms of like pacing, it means people are going to be looted up faster, which is good. And then it also means that people can spend more time looting because they have more time. They have more options to get to zone. But it also means the congestion is going to be, it's going to start to spread back out, right? There was a huge shift around Winter Royale and around the plains and especially with the ballers, where everybody coalesced in center zone very fast, right? There was very few people on the outskirts, which was good because there was less storm fighting, so there was less, people getting screwed by random decisions by players. But it was bad in the sense that now everybody's just sitting there in center zone. Sure, they shoot at each other because they want points, but it ended up being a lot less fights on the outskirts. And we saw that ESL Katowice. It was actually really hard to find any action in the early mid game, like at all. So I feel like it should be better, but it's also more mobility means that the center type play style will be stronger because it's going to be easier to do that for a lot more people. But I don't know how it's going to play out because the loot is going to be so good and you don't have to worry about getting the zone fast. I don't know. Just my thoughts.
Speedy, what do you think?
So one example I like to draw on is area of the map, right? So before the balls were introduced in the happy area and the chair area, place to be at, you can drop at cabins, or my favorite spot was, and like literally no one would go here, over to and the pirate area. So I would land in Greasy. Like literally no one would go there because it's so out of the way. It's uncontested drop. But as more baller spawns started to appear in the area, the population density started to move. They're like more scavengers.
Uh-oh, we dropped Discord again. Hold up.
We could. That.
It's still there, I think.
There we go.
So as the scavengers came into the snow part of the area, cabins were out of the question. Scavengers had some of polar, and then they started moving into Greasy, and just like the entire snow area is being absolutely torn apart. So to my point, now this is a bigger scale, right? More scavengers. Those little off the popular trail, off the beam track, are just going to be completely. The loot's not going to be there, so you kind of have to start looking at some major POIs, and maybe the population density starts to move somewhere else.
Okay.
Maybe places where no new stuff has come around.
That makes sense. Yeah,
Just
some like older,
point,
forgotten about places, and people weren't hitting as often. I could see
I
that.
don't think there's many of those spots anymore, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say
That's what
I don't know
about.
how many of those there are, right? Like we've been like wringing as much as we can out of this map for a while now, right? Like especially in finals games, right? Like you just can't get an uncontested walk into first circle.
In finals games, you can. In finals games, sometimes loot lake is unlooted, so
That's true. I mean, that's fair, right? There are games where nobody goes tilted. There's all right. Yeah.
There's a lot actually up
That's
for
fair.
grabs in finals games just because it's not customs. So people haven't played out exactly what they think is going to happen. It's not multiple games in a row with the same people, so it's always different, right?
Yeah.
So there's always these free spots. Actually, there's literally always. So it's actually good for the pop-up cup format, but it's awful for the customs format. You know what I'm saying? It's not awful. I don't know how it's going to play out because all I've played is customs, and so far it seems like literally everything is getting looted. So I don't know.
Yeah. I hear that. You mentioned also like seeing less storm fighting in the last season than you're normally accustomed to. I would almost attest that we'll see more now, but that it won't be
It's
as
less
awful.
impactful.
Yeah, exactly. You have way
Yep.
more ways to escape from that, or even not escape, to finish the fight and still make it into zone with plenty of time, right?
Yep.
I think you storm fought someone before you came on, and was like there was like a slipstream right next to the fight.
Yeah.
Is
Why
it
not
really a storm fight when you can get out?
No.
Yeah.
It's not. The storm fight is sure, maybe it is a storm fight, right? You might spend some time in the zone, but like a storm fight is when you screw both of you guys. And sure, anytime you're spending both time in the zone, you're fighting each other, you possibly can't. You possibly are screwing both of you, because if you get shot and you end up at low HP. But with Siphon, actually, that's kind of not the case anymore, because if somebody's going to get the kill, somebody's going to get 50 HP regardless. I think it still could be storm fighting, and I think it's not as bad though. And it's going to be good for people because you're going to get more points, you're going to break your tiebreakers and stuff like that, but it's still pretty risky regardless.
Okay,
If you end up in an extended storm fight, you're screwed. Like, but if you can just leave, then it's fine.
Okay, cool. Let's move on to the next question then.
Sure.
Let's bring in. Hold up. Fight the echo. All right, we've got Sherlock F in with the next question. Sherlock, how are you doing today? Oh, you there?
Yo, what's up, guys? How are you doing?
Yo, what's up,
Sherlock?
dude? What's up? Yo, let's focus on the first thing you asked, that original prompt. That's got Balla all kinds of interested.
Yeah, well, after watching them both play the solo qual... Hold on. Off. I just need to turn push to talk off. Give me a second real quick.
No worries. And the people he's talking about, they, is Benji, Fishy, and Mr. Savage.
Yes.
Just to...
Oh, yeah, sorry, guys. I didn't clarify that. But anyway, I saw them both play in the solo qualifiers, and, I mean, obviously, Benji qualified in the first one, and Savage didn't. But just after that as well, Savage and Benji, I feel like Savage has been maybe not as taking Fortnite seriously as much as he had been, and I think Benji's been really on the grind. And I don't know if you guys have seen this as well, but I just think Benji has taken the throne of maybe even best EU player. And they're both amazing players, maybe best in the world, but I feel like they're both amazing mechanically, and they're both amazing. They both have amazing game sense. But I think maybe Benji might be edging Savage out now.
I want to
I
keep
don't know if you guys have any thoughts on this.
I want to keep you in the room, Sherlock, just because we're going to talk about this for a while, but I want to give you an opportunity to maybe rebuttal if someone here doesn't agree with you. Balla, what's your first impressions here?
Benji doesn't have any. Well, neither of them have any experience on land, so that claim about best EU player is going to be really, really hard for me to reach. But I want to start by saying, like, it's crazy that we are talking about duo partners and we're comparing them as if, like, because there's no other competition where there's people who compete in both the solos except for tennis. There's no competition where they compete both in solos and duos. So it's weird that we're like
Table tennis.
Oh, table tennis. Yeah, I said
Best sport.
All right, buddy. Fortnite best sport. Here we go. But like, so yeah, starting with that, I think Benji currently has the better mentality over Savage, and I think that's why he's crushing it. Because his mentality is just miles better when he's playing solo. Just miles better. But in terms of like mechanics, positioning, consistency, Benji had an insane tear through all of the events, like leading up to the World Cup and in the World Cup as well, where he played both NA East and EU and was crushing NA East and was crushing EU every single time.
He made a
and
huge
it was
entrance.
Disgusting. It was disgusting. He was nasty. We didn't see much of it except on YouTube, but it was gross. So like I think you're better. He's also like starting to be just better in that area too, especially in solos. But I feel like Benji and Mr. Savage, specifically in duos, Mr. Savage is a big leader in that. I mean, I talked to Benji on my VOD review with him.
Yeah, I saw that. That was really good.
Yeah, where he was very clearly looking towards Mr. Savage for what he wants, what they're gonna do, and that's the reason why they're good. So, I don't necessarily disagree with you saying that Benji is better. I think he's better in solos. I think we've seen that so far in the results. I don't think Mr. Savage has really placed well at all in solos yet, except for some of the pre World Cup stuff. But in World Cup, it's not been good for him so far, which is interesting because I always thought that his playstyle tended to the pop-up cup format. Because when I did my VOD review on him, like way back when, he was just disgusting. But there was a clear switch. Like we were watching like all the games from him, and there's a clear switch where he was playing really passive and not like good at all. I mean, he was playing well. He was making it to end game, but he was like playing so scared. And then all of a sudden, he just turned it on and just went ham, balls to the walls, like aggressive, like crazy, good, just fast mechanics, all that stuff. And that's why he was good. I think he loses that without Benji, and that's why he's not doing well in the World Cup right now.
Yeah, and also if I could ask another question, I would also like to argue that maybe some of the best, one of the best duos in the world, although they may not have LAN experience, the new phase recruits Mega and Dubs, they're just amazing. Like I've been watching Mega for a while, and they've just proven to be super consistent. They haven't really been able to show that in the finals yet because they've had mechanical difficulties where Mega got DDoSed, but I feel like they're a top contender to maybe take the World Cup home.
Well, let's back it up a bit. Back to Benji and Savage.
sorry.
You're good. Speedy, do you have anything you want to add to that? This is kind of like Balla's specialty, right? This topic here, but do you have anything to add there?
This is 100% Balla's specialty because Balla actually had like conversations with most of these players. You know, Mega and Dubs and Benji and Mr. Savage and even Mongo is just kind of unique because most of these guys are extremely young, and before they couldn't even compete in, or even, you know, they were out of the conversation in prior tournaments or prior competitive events.
Just a couple months ago, yeah.
Yeah. So now we're actually seeing how do they stack up against the old guard, and we're seeing Benji and Mr. Savage crush it, and Dubs and Mega, you know, get recruited. Like they're doing so well, they caught the eye of a major org, got recruited, and now it's just a matter of locking in into World Cup, and then again, and see how these guys do at the LAN, right, and how they perform with the other more experienced LAN players. So, you know, that's something I'm excited.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. I think it was really interesting what you said, Balla, about how do you think personally that Benji performs better himself? You already kind of talked about Mr. Savage, right? But do you think Benji performs better alongside Mr. Savage or in solos?
I don't know. It's really hard to compare solos performance versus duos performance because they're actually completely different games, to be honest.
Yep. Yeah.
They're very, very different, and so it's tough. But no, I kind of feel that Benji is good no matter what. So like I don't think there's a huge difference between him with Mr. Savage or him without. I think a huge key to their success in duos is Mr. Savage, but
sure.
I think you pair Benji with somebody else and he's going to mesh well with them because he's just such a well-spoken, like good-mannered, he has his emotions under control.
What a great young boy. Just real special
young lad. Just a strapping young lad. Which is cool, which is actually like a huge contrast to Dubs and Mega. Not a contrast, a very, very, very clear similarity to Dubs and Mega. They are so easy to get along with. But I mean,
they have really good chemistry.
They have great chemistry. You just listen to them, and I've been playing Zone Wars and stuff like that with them recently, and they just have great chemistry with everybody. They just have fun. Like they never talk shit. They never do anything like that. They just have a good time, and it's awesome to see, which is amazing coming from Dubs because of all the shit that he went through after qualifying in week one. Like all that stuff, and he still has a positive head. He's awesome. But
And now he's on one of the biggest orgs in the world. It's just amazing how he
Yep.
just came back.
yep.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so, but the thing is, I poop on dubs all the time in Turtle Wars, so like I should qualify for World Cup, right? Like I'm probably
Yeah.
better at this point, so no worries. He's not gonna do well. No, I'm
Ouch.
just kidding. He's amazing. No, literally the last 3 weeks of his performances have been nuts. Solos, he qualified twice. He qualified twice already. Like there's only a few people who have done that. Actually, I think
4?
Dubs might be the only person to have qualified twice in solos. I think
He had a first to his
Bobby
name,
Chicken
but I
did it
can't
twice in
remember what it is.
duos. I don't remember, but yeah, he's nuts. He's nuts. Cool. I think we've exhausted that topic.
Yeah,
right?
thank you
guys,
so
unless
much,
you guys have anything
Sherlock.
else? Thanks, Sherlock.
I have
Appreciate it.
one more question for Balla specifically. I just had a question about what was the better venue to cast, like Katowice or the World Cup qualifiers.
The Katowice. Live event. It doesn't even-
Katowice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't even- It's not even close.
Doesn't even compare.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah,
Speedy
okay.
was there. So
Hey, yeah,
like,
I
was-
left it out of his intro, but Speedy was also there. I mean, come on. All right. Sherlock, thanks so much.
Let me
Have a
get
Thank you
fantastic.
guys for your
coffee. It
time.
was a good time.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you,
Thank you, guys.
Sherlock.
See you guys.
Bye.
Before we move into the next question, I'm interested in a few here. I did want to talk a little bit about casting and like how that's been for you guys, and I know obviously you know, you probably often are asked about it a lot, but specifically Katowice, right? The last major live event, it was packed, right? What was total attendance? Do you know?
For ESL Katowice in total?
Yeah.
Yeah, those numbers.
In the 1,000 and like in the probably. I mean, CS:GO, all the events, it was
That's
probably
true.
tens of thousands.
That's true. With all the events, yeah.
The
definitely.
Fortnite event was not well attended at all. Like, I'll be honest, like it wasn't. The last day it was packed, but it wasn't people who were interested. Like it was people who
knew
were
it.
strolling by, like, oh, there's Fortnite here. Oh, we're here with our kids. Like, oh, let's go ahead and check it out. Like, it wasn't, the attendance wasn't that great. I'll be honest.
That's fair. Do you think Katowice? I'm having a hard time remembering. Were 13-year-olds allowed to compete? No. Yeah, right. How do you feel there would have been major standings mix-ups had players like Dubs and Mega, Benji, been able to compete?
I'll let you start with that, Speedy.
I think, I mean, viewership would have definitely risen if like a Mr. Savage or a Mongrel.
One sec, I lost you guys audio-wise. Please
We're
hold.
Hold on a sec, Speedy.
All
Turn
right,
down.
sorry about that.
He's back.
I mean, we had good viewership. Definitely, we had like really high reviews, but at the end of the day, it was a EU tournament. It was international, yeah, but it was based in EU. A lot of the players, easy for them to travel to this tournament. So, like for example, if Tifu would have played, the viewership would have probably doubled. For
Sure.
example,
Yeah.
Just one example. Metric I think would have increased, and I think it would have definitely been EU fans to see some of their more popular, favorite players compete.
Yeah, like Mongrel, like if 100% agreed. Mongrel and Mr. Savage and Benji and some of the guys in NA as well definitely would have shaken up the standings. I see no doubt in my mind that they would have been top 10. Because I feel like some of them like have the least tilt in them, and ESL Katowice like unfortunately was a tilt inducing event for a lot of people. So like I don't know. I feel like they would have done very, very well in that environment and with that format as well, because like that format was great for people like them, because they would frag out and they frag out and they get high placements no matter what. Like they never die off spawn almost. Like they if they are there, they're literally getting a spot pretty much uncontested, because they're literally going to just push them out every single time. it's nuts. There would have definitely been a shakeup.
Yeah,
No doubt in my mind.
I think that's interesting, and I agree completely with that. Let's bring in our next guest here. We've got Zycoma. Zycoma, how are you doing?
Hey,
Yeah, sorry. I'm good.
Hey! What do you got for us? What do you got for us
What's up?
tonight?
Well, my topic is related to like how people like tend to give feedback on like Twitter or like just in general, right? On about like changes made in by Epic. So I feel like we have like this culture where like certain Fortnite celebrities like Tfue or Poach or Chap, they like sort of have their communities, and so when they complain or like even just state something on Twitter, a lot of the community just tends to blindly follow their opinion without question. So I think that's like an unhealthy part of like our culture. Um, like it's weird, right? Because we do have like this complaining, quote unquote, complaining culture, but I think there is a proper way to give feedback, right? Like if you give constructive criticism where it's like clear cut, and you give like you do it in a good mannered way, like Epic tends to respond. So I think I don't know like how to fix this situation, but I think this is a very it's not healthy for our situation.
Zycoma, thanks a lot for this question. I'm going to pass it to Speedy to respond to first. But I wanted to say thank you, and we're going to bop you off while we talk about it.
Uh-huh.
Perfect. Have a great night, dude. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Get
out
thank
of
you,
here.
man.
Speedy, what do you think about
on
that?
a smaller scale? Oh, I make creative maps sometimes, right? And creating a game. I have my like edit map, some maps like last week, and I spent like an entire day creating this like really cool map. I brought some friends in, and one of my friends was like, "Speedy."
No, you cut out for most of that.
I made a map and I brought in a friend, and he basically said my map was shit.
Oh!
And I spent like all day working on this map. I think I felt, right? And then
you felt like getting rid of one of your friends.
Felt like unfriending, finding that unfriend button. But no, that's a joke. That's a joke. But that emotional response kind of translates to Epic, right? Who, these developers spend weeks, months to figure out how to make a really good game, and then they launch it, and the feedback is, "Wow, your game sucks. This game's trash. This is like the worst game ever." So, personally speaking, that heavy toll from an employee, especially when that employee is doing their job and they think they're doing a great job. Like, from the end user is the opposite. So that's just to answer like one part of side, right, as a creator. From the feedback side and the community providing more of a constructive dialogue, I hate to use myself as an example, but like last week I made a video about redeployed not building bug. I did like a thorough example. I didn't do any criticism. I like plainly explained, hey, since this patch, this bug's been in the game, and here's why I think this happened. And then in season 9, stating that they fixed that bug. So I think that's an effective way to communicate. And you have to understand that you're communicating with adults. You're not communicating with children. There's a level of maturity that goes into you have to put into arranging an argument or putting a topic forward. Saying revert, or spat, that's more of a the revert campaign. You can see how effective it is. Putting forward some more clear points as to why revert siphon changes. I don't know. Maybe it should be more conversational than confrontational.
Sure, yeah. I'll offer my 2 cents on that. I'm someone who likes to avoid negative attitudes, right? Like, but I'm also someone who's willing to talk about and really get into the nitty-gritty of things that I love, you know, that I really like. And I really like Fortnite, and I really enjoy talking about it. So we're here on this show, and talking about something involves, of course, acknowledging the things you like and the things you don't like and the things that you really, really, really don't like as well. And I agree that there's a tone, but there's also a time and a place, right? When I'm with my friend and I'm not talking to a dev, I can be as aggressive as I want, right? On Twitter, we can almost get that feeling, you know, of like, this is my confined, closed space. Like, other people aren't here, especially when you like have a platform, right? But also, you kind of start to get into the conversation of like, is it right to hold someone to a higher standard just because they have a platform? You know, that's a whole debate amongst circles in and of itself. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I get frustrated when I see like really aggressive complaining, but like I don't feel like I'm in a position, or that anyone's really in a position to say like, don't do it that way. I just say, that's not my thing. I don't want to be a part of that. I'm more interested in talking about it, like maybe constructively. I don't know, Bala, what do you think?
You can't have you can't have a one-way conversation, right? Like, I think people have tried, and let me just be clear: Epic has been fan-fucking-tastic in the last like 3 weeks in terms of communication. It's not the answers we want to hear. It's not the discussions we want to. You know, again, it still feels like a one-way conversation, but they are addressing some concerns, which is really cool, really awesome, and I hope it continues. But a conversation is not one way. So, like, I totally understand, especially I flew to TwitchCon thinking that zombies were going to be in the game. Like, that is a level of like I get it. I understand why people are like not. There is so many things that are adding up that like you can't really you can't just nail down that frustration and like keep it in there. Like, I get why it's out there. I get why people are mad. It's very obvious to me, but at the same time, I tend to agree with you guys, but for the sole reason of, it is just awful for our game to constantly have people yelling how fucking trash it is. It is awful for the game. It's just awful for the longevity of the game. It's ruining the image, and it's terrible. The way that people are treating the game on Twitter is awful. I mean, it is so bad to the point where every single thread on Fortnite is just yelling revert, because guess what? All the top players have been like, this game is trash, they should revert it, and it's completely ruined it for them because their careers rely on the game. They have built their careers on this game, and that is just not good for them, right? There was a moment at ESO Katowice where everybody was dying to bugs, and you know, it sucks. It really does. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really sucks. But there's a moment where you realize all the players have their phones. They're all tweeting. Yeah. They're all like, "I just died to a bug again. This game's not competitive." Yet you're still playing the game competitively, and you're still relying, and you still want to play the game competitively because it's a great game. At the end of the day, it is a fantastic game, and it clearly is competitive. When Bizzle and Saf and Zayt win tournament after tournament, it clearly is competitive, no matter what, in terms of all the bugs, all the, you know, the lag in the servers, all that stuff. It sucks sometimes, but they clearly are working on it, and I wish we would have that conversational topic and that conversational tone with them rather than shitting on them all the time and shitting on your own future. And like, as soon as I went full time, I just see all these people like, "Oh, Fortnite's never gonna be an esport. It's so trash." I'm just like, "Oh God, what are you guys doing? Like, you're ruining it for me. You're ruining it for you. You're ruining it for this guy. You're ruining it for all these young kids who are trying to make millions of dollars playing this game and make it a future for themselves." And it's just not good. It's not good.
I can agree completely with that. Also, there's the effect of just like the overall effect on the attitude of people in the scene, right? Like, you jump back even a year to like Fortnite or the competitive subreddits, first creation, right, where it started to get popular, and you and Speedy and a few other people, I remember when I first started visiting, the posts that I was seeing a lot of were Ballas and Speedies and Bumpas actually were some of the first posts of content I had seen on there, and I was like, sweet, like another cool competitive space. Like I hung out in the competitive League of Legends subreddits before, and I hung out in the Counter-Strike zones before, and then like in this one too, I was like, hey, this like seems to generally carry the same attitude of Fortnite, which is just like people are having fun and they seem to be nice to each other, right? That's not like I'm hopping into a game of CS and people are screaming at me over their mics as often. but then like the whole community, the whole competitive side of the community starts to key off of people with platforms in that community, pros and content creators who are just aggressive and angry and like toxic, right, with the way they speak and the way they address other players who kill them or they don't like, as well as the game itself, and that just breeds and fosters a whole community of just upset people.
I have long held that the Fortnite pro community is the best in terms of like welcomeness, like how they welcome people, like they include people. Everybody says there's tons of gatekeeping, but like this community is great. The pro community was great. The keyword was, as soon as customs came out, like it's starting to go like, but there was a lot of role models in the scene, right? There was a lot of role models and they were doing really good. That is why there's a duo like Mega and Dubs who are out here and they're really, really well spoken. They think about what they say, they know how to handle themselves, and they are good at the game and they have a positive attitude, because there was such great role models. Vivid, right? 72 hours. These guys, Poach, they are really good role models for a lot of people. But sorry, I lost my point a little bit in terms of like, but yeah, the competitive community right now has turned into like an all-time low. There's no longer people like, oh, having fun and like enjoying themselves in scrims, like, and I get there's the state of the game and stuff like that, but yeah.
I want to move on from this topic, but I don't want to leave it on a huge downer. Speedy, what do you think about hope for the future, right? Do you feel like people are starting to catch on to that? Do you hope that maybe, we can start a ground root sort of resurgence of just acting a little more proper? What are your thoughts there, looking into the future?
Future in terms of what?
Just
communication with Epic, or just outlook on the game?
Community's outlook on the game, right? Pro community and how they respond and react to changes and communicate with their fan base and with Epic. Oh man, I dropped out again. Whenever Speedy talks,
he always cuts out when he goes to you.
I promise I don't hate you. I love you. All right, let's hear.
Yeah. So the environment, right? Epic's actions, right? It's the community responds to anything that Epic does. So what happened over the last 2 weeks is Epic communicating a lot more recently. Again, it's not the answers we want regarding like FOB or Siphon communicating. I think if Epic does some sort of, I don't know, like I've pitched this idea before. They have like an advisory board of like players, some people who are mature that they can come into a meeting, communicate some stuff with, back and forth, say, hey, we're thinking of doing, and the players are like, hey, Epic, I'm a competitive player, this is how that change will affect me. And then there's some sort of dialogue in a room or a call between players and Epic. Go a long way. I don't know if that's ever going to be a reality, but just I feel like the community has to be involved in some way in order for positive changes to be implemented and a bright outlook.
I think somebody should try that, man. I think somebody should try. Hey, here's a board of people who are mature and can give you my thoughts, or can represent me in terms of my thoughts for competitive. I think somebody should try that and be like, hey, guys, I would love to have a conversation. Can we sit down? I don't know if it would work, if they would even respond or whatever, but it would be interesting, I think.
It's
one more topic on the role model thing. The reason I was talking about that was because whenever Tifu or Bizzle says this bug, the servers are shit or something like that, guess what happens? 1,000 people or 2,000, everybody watching, a lot of them are very impressionable young people who will just repeat it. And they will tweet it. They'll retweet every single time they see it. No matter what happens in the future, if the server quality improves, guess what? It has improved. But there's still people who have this impression that the servers suck. The servers are laggy, and the servers are not laggy right now. Sure, there's FPS issues. That's a different topic entirely. But because people, and the role model specifically, are saying things without really thinking about the implications of what they do down the line, there's a ton of people who have bad impressions about the game because they listen to Tifu say that there's bad impressions without any context, without any follow-up, without any future thought into it. They're just going to repeat it.
If Tifu says this game is shit in front of 50,000 people, 50,000 people now take that statement as truth. Yeah, no, I could definitely see that.
A percentage of the 50,000 people. Let's be really clear here, because 0.1% of that is me.
That's fair. That's fair. We're gonna have one last question and talk about one other topic. Let's bring Nikolai in. Nikolai, how are you doing, man?
Nikolai, what up, man?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me.
Yo. What do you want to talk about?
All right, so my biggest thing right now is Epic's communication. So, as I think Balla could probably attest, I am really big on vouching for Epic when they're saying they're listening. It's really the return on that listen. So they're not giving us the feedback that they're not giving it back to us, is what I'm seeing. And we do have these now weekly competitive updates that we're getting, but it's still not enough in my eyes, as well as a lot of others. I just kind of wanted to see what you guys have to feel on that as well.
Do you have a specific example of what you think there hasn't been enough communication around?
So take example for the blog post we had on the 7th, where they listed some stuff about the drum gun, the LTM, the disconnecting duos, as well as the Season 9 update. We're not seeing as much... They're not giving us too much feedback in that. They're doing it very vaguely, as well as not responding to other topics that have been talked about. It looks like they're talking on things that they have fixed and they are implementing in the future or already have implemented. They're not giving us any feedback on what they're working on to fix as well. As we do have a lot of bug reports, and we do have specific channels, especially in the pro cords, that we can submit feedback straight from Epic, and I work with Epic to create those channels.
Yeah.
And they're not, they're just not giving us the feedback on those other topics. They're giving us feedback on the things that they have completed, is what I see.
Sure. I think that from my standpoint, there's a couple things going on there, right? Like any official communication, like if it's on their page, that's getting looked over by PR people, that's getting looked over by design people, as well as dev teams, right?
And lawyers.
Yeah, and lawyers, right? Especially with all this money on the line in the competitive scene. These are things that to be really careful about. So I would say that it makes sense for them not to talk a lot about things that they don't have significant... I don't want to say just progress, but like if they don't have something significant to say about the topic, it makes a lot of sense for them not to say anything. They don't gain anything. And game developers have talked a lot about this in the past. Recently you've got Blizzard, a company like Blizzard. Yeah, exactly. And League of Legends, these guys, it's really interesting. You can watch basically any new esport, and then you can go back and watch StarCraft scene. You can go back and watch League of Legends scene. You go back and watch Counter-Strike scene to an extent, and kind of watch how these developers kind of grow up and mature in their interactions with their player base over time. Because they realize these things are more important. If they say we're working on this thing, but really it's just, being looked at by one dev as they're trying to like get their head around it, and it's still months out, people are just going to complain and whine and want that one thing until it's ready, right?
Tim, like you talked about the different developers, like there has been very clear examples of very, very, very heavy communication early on in competitive scenes. And then the developers realize it's not worth their time because it just causes more problems and it just causes more confusion and questions and hopes. It like brings people's hopes up and then it shatters them because, yeah. So, so that's that. But then at the same time, you have to remember, And this is very clear now since the drum gun unvaulting and vaulting the pump shotgun. It's very clear to me now that the competitive community is tiny. So them dedicating even a few resources to answering questions and discussion from the competitive community is very, 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 very low on their like worthness, on their scale of worth. Like, is it worth us dedicating resources to this? And Lumen is doing a fantastic job answering questions right now in the competitive subreddit and like responding to bug reports and stuff like that. Like, he's doing great. And actually all the team has stepped it up, especially, I don't know where this Dan guy came from, but he's insane. Like,
And Dan the man.
but yeah, you have to think about it like that. Is it worth their time dedicating money in looking or in specifically communicating back to us?
Yeah, and you look.
I don't know what the answer to that is.
You mentioned Dan specifically, and I think that's that's a really good example of like the maturity. Like Dan's not either. Dan's going to get a new role within Epic, or he's not going to continue doing this forever, right? Because he takes a huge personal risk on. He's not paid. He's a developer, right? It says right there in his title. He's almost certainly not paid to make these posts on Reddit. So like, he makes a great post on Reddit. Everybody loves it. He gets some upvotes. Yeah, there's a lot of community positivity, and that's a great thing. Like, that's awesome, and that is measurable to an extent. But the one time he screws up, he gets fired. He gets sued, and he's screwed, right? Like, at some point, he's gonna like come close enough to that line where he's gonna have to like seriously talk about like, I need protections and I need this official role, or it's not happening anymore, right? And that's just kind of a natural progression. That being said, of course, communication is fantastic, and it's okay to still say we want more. But I think we have to acknowledge kind of like the limitations of that, especially when it comes to unannounced things and wanting new things announced, whether it's bug fixes or features or whatever. I think the more valid thing to complain about lack of communication around are changes that have already been made, or changes that have already been decided to be made that had an opportunity to be talked about before going through with it. What do you think about things like that, Speedy?
Yeah, I can agree with that. And especially, like you said, with Dan, he's doing a great job, and obviously kind of started the whole change to the communication within Epic with that original Reddit post back in April. I do get that they were talking about their intent, their motivation, their reasoning behind new changes. And I get where you guys are coming from with listen to the community. I guess mine is more towards the pro community. I feel like at least discussing in those channels and in those contacts, directly to those pro players, like you said, like Vivid and Tfue, who can have just a huge impact on the way when they say the game sucks, stuff like that, is because they're not getting any feedback directly to them anymore. Even in our private channels that we have, with our game feedback. Even I mean, I'm not saying like publicly either. I mean, this is a little bit different from what we were going on, a little bit off topic, not too much, but just replying to those channels and showing that they're listening. Because me telling everyone over and over, because I get DMs from Lumen here and there, but that's just me. No one knows that. So being able to put in those channels into those players saying, hey, we're listening, even stuff like that would at least, I feel, help maybe quiet down those higher pros saying, hey, this game sucks on Twitter, and the revert spam and things like that.
I don't think the pros that you're talking about, the pros that are relevant, are actually going to pay attention at all to those channels unless it was highly publicized in the pro community. And I don't think it ever would be. But I agree with you. I think just small little things like, oh, we'll look into that. Oh, we're listening. Like, we hear you on this topic. Yeah. Does go a long way. And that is not that much effort,
Totally.
And specifically with so much on the line for the World Cup, for them, like, there is a lot on the line for them, clearly, and both in terms of money, in terms of what they're actually going to achieve, their goals with it and whatnot. There should be more. There should just be more, I think. There's a lot at stake, in my opinion, and I agree with you, Nikolai.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Nikolai. Have a great evening.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, man. Bye.
All right, crew. That's our last question for the evening.
Right.
All righty. Hey, it's not season 8 anymore. No more pirate shit. Come on now. I want to give you guys an opportunity before I send you off here to plug your stuff. Thank you so much for being on the show. But before you do, I want to ask Balla, It's been 1 day, and you've probably only had like half a day to actually play in it, or less. One word, Fortnite Season 9 experience so far and going forward.
One word? Come on, bro.
It better not be a compound word. If there's a hyphen, you're done. You're done.
Was that your word?
That's my
Bruh.
word.
Duh.
Bruh.
Yeah.
Bala,
I don't know. I don't know. There's not enough time.
Where can people find you?
You can find me twitch.tv/BallaTW. BallaTW everywhere. Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. And that's it.
What do you got?
A lot of reviews on deck, guys.
There
Let's
we
go,
go.
baby.
There you go. When's the next one? Do you have that planned out yet?
The next one will be on. I get home on Monday, Tuesday. It'll be on Tuesday.
Tuesday. Let's date that. Tuesday, the 14th, May 14th. There's nothing special about that date, so
Hey.
other than VOD review. Speedy, in one word, your season 9 experience so far and going forward into the future.
Not bad, honestly. Like,
Whoa, that's so many more than one word.
That is BS, Speedy.
You started with Bala's word, and then you added a bunch.
I don't know what to say then. Not a lot of words.
All right. Where can we find you, Speedy?
You can find me on Reddit. You can find me on Twitter. Here in Florida. I don't recommend that. Last one, just stay away.
Yikes!
Gosh.
Yikes! Delete the VOD! Delete the VOD! Perfect. Well, I want to thank you guys again for coming on, being on the show. I really appreciate it. I hope that you guys had a great time, and I hope that you guys in chat had a great time. I will do a bit of an outro here, but I want to say goodbye to you guys.
Thank you guys for hanging out. This was a blast.
It was awesome. It was so much fun. I had so much fun. Just seriously, it was fun. I want to be back next week, man.
We'll see. I gotta check the ratings, see how they responded to the Bala vibes. All right. I'll check you guys.
Yeah,
later.
I just want to say that I had more fun than Bala. It's not a competition, but I did.
I had a lot of fun.
All right. Until we figure out a way to objectively measure fun, you guys are gonna have to take an even keel. And peace on out. See you later, guys. All right.